If you limit LEGO planes to basic LEGO parts, you're going to end up with awkwardly thin planes. But not anymore, these are supreme upgrades to my most popular wide-body plane designs. Forget using one-piece cockpits, I'll show you how I made the 145-piece A380 Nose. But the best feature that I've not made a tutorial of yet are the angled wings, which I've never managed to do until now. These aren't copies of the planes from my videos, I've perfected them with extra strength. Well, it's strong enough, and realistic central fuel tank designs, like the unique one of the DC-10. It's probably my second most requested tutorial, and this custom nose kinda shows why. So we're gonna improve my Turkish DC-10 by firstly making a custom base, and these long bricks here show how wide this is gonna be. This nose is as simplified as possible, so hopefully you'll have less parts to order, and we're using lots of bricks with studs on the sides, especially here as the base part is upside down, of course. Now it's my first time trying this 3x3 dish for the nose. It's smaller than the one on my Turkish design, so looks better, and we're putting our larger windshield part very close behind, as the DC-10 has a nicely short nose like the 777. You can see the shape beginning to come along now, and I hope you like this new little part inventory I've edited below. It's just the current parts number with a picture of it. This part with the studs on 4 sides goes just inside here, which is why we had to uncover that segment. And of course, if you want to try following this, I recommend slowing the video down in settings. And if you're just watching this for fun, then that's also a great decision, as there's some interesting building techniques and funny scenes I want you to see later on. And now all we need is the roof. It might need a bit of pushing down, but it's worth the complete DC-10 nose. It even has that vague frowning kind of look, which is great to get at this scale. But this realism is small compared to what we will replicate next. So firstly, just extend the cabin with these parts, and we're going to strengthen the connection with those corner parts. Now the cabin is fully coming together. A 10 stud wide plane can fit 3 long rows of seats, that is, if you place the cabin floor plates across the bricks. Keep in mind it could be more difficult to fit passengers in because of the roof slopes, as this cabin design isn't as tall as my Turkish one was for my Turkish 981 recreation. But what no 10 stud LEGO DC-10 has ever had is this realistic central fuel tank, maybe because it's got a unique shape. It's not flat like most are, but it's like 2 long bulges coming from the side of the lower fuselage. So would you say doing it like this is a decent way? Just a load of slopes, and you've got to flip it over for this next bit. I'm using this part for my first time. Put it here, and you might see me using these Technic pins a lot throughout these tutorials, as they're the best way for attaching LEGO that's upside down, like this fuel tank is. This final touch before we do the wings covers the part sticking out below, and has the DC-10's landing lights, which don't exactly go on the wing. We begin the wing box, which has those 3 bricks because they're deep enough to hold more Technic pins, which will connect the central fuel tank. This may seem like a bit of a mess of plates, but they need to be like this for strength. These wings are much thicker at the point where they connect to the fuselage. Let's also see how it would look with smoother tiled wings. If you remember my IL-62 design from my Warsaw crashes, they were made smooth by having this ordinary plate layer but with tiles on top. So let's just finish off the wing box and now move on to the rest of the wing, which should be a bit easy as we don't really have to angle it like with the 747 next. We're leaving space for the smooth tiles, but if you don't want that, then it's fine to just put regular plates there like with most of my other plane designs. This wing is also a bit like my 757 and 787 wing designs from the last tutorial vid, because as the wing gets longer, we move it upwards by the height of 1 plate. It's only done twice this time, and I'm basically saying we're going to point this wing upwards slightly. It helps to stop it sagging down, which is a huge problem if there's many engines on the wing. So remember, you can try just increasing the height of the wing a few times as it gets longer, like I have done here. The rest of the wing is up next real quick. You can see we begin with raising it up that tiny bit, and soon we'll make our way to the wingtip. But that will vary whether you're making the DC-10 or the MD-11, which was a longer version that also had winglets. I'll show how to make MD-11 upgrades soon, as it is just a really cool plane. Well, as I said, the wingtip of our DC-10 is a bit bland, but I did add this little antenna part. It's kinda cool, I guess. And always remember, when ordering parts like these wedges, you might need the flipped version for the other wing, as there are left and right wedges. With the rest of the plane, let's plop our complete wings down, but upside down, as we're going to put Technic pins in these bricks we placed at the start. Make sure they're in a place where they won't be blocked by the part where two of the central fuel tank plates sit together. Makes sense, right? Once you've connected that strongly and also to the walls, let's just push our fuselage across these wings. Now stretch the roof over too and do the usual detailing up there with the antenna and light. I think that the length of this fuselage is good for whatever DC-10 or MD-11 you want to make, but you can of course customize anything however it fits your taste. Back here we're again connecting up that central area to the very rear fuselage, which is a very short area on this build. To fit the back part on, we use these wedge bricks to make the fuselage thinner. Now we can attach that back on, but if you want to see how a custom back area is made, I'll give advice on that later in the video. Let's begin the best part of the DC-10, engine number 2. The back is weak without it, but these bricks will strengthen it so much more. It's so big that it doesn't even bother me that we've used the regular Lego back part, and I made it this big because DC-10's rear engine has about the same diameter as the ones mounted on the wings. And if we make that longer, you just end up with this big heavy engine, so be careful how you distribute the weight with things like an interior if you want your plane to be able to stand on landing gear. Don't put the engine fan blades at the front of engine 2, I'm putting this dark circular plate instead because the fan blades are actually much further inside the engine than you might expect, so it should just be empty space at the very front. I did have a black one of those plates, but I might have lost it after Turkish 981, I don't know. Let's continue a curved top to the engine, and we'll put jumper plates a bit further back which will attach to the vertical stabilizer as well as some cheese slopes next to them to maintain that nice shape. At the back of the engine, coming off from the tail, is this thing. I'm kinda lazy to research what purpose it has, but it's an iconic DC-10 feature, so we must recreate it. This vertical stabilizer is somewhat tall as we're using 3 of these big slopes off the Concorde, which are kind of steep. Now finish off the roof tiles up to the engine. And the aft section is done, except the special angled stabilizers. We will build them big so they stand out better, so when you look at this plane from the front, it's very obviously either the DC-10 or an MD-11. And we're also using some tiles here so it matches the wing style. Use a support piece and 2 hinges to attach these stabilizers. Yes, that's good. Of course, the special thing about this plane is that as well as the rear engine, there's also the 2 regular twin engines on the wings, which make this trijet look totally different to the others with all 3 engines at the back, specifically the Trident 727 and the Tupolev Tu-154. This one's a very neat design. I've made it wider and longer than the 747 engine so that they're a size that looks good sitting alone on the wings. This design at the back is really nice as we're kind of putting this smaller circle part inside the new larger circular part, and that bit we've put at the very end is just for the DC-10-10, so don't do it for an MD-11. And the engines should attach right on here, but you can move them further back to attach them stronger. Our final feature sticks out from under the wings with the 6 unique flap track fairings. The DC-10 is done. But this isn't the final version I'm showing, as we're going to upgrade it next, and also for reference, here's where the fairings go. Well, the single main thing you need to change it to an MD-11 are these winglets, each made from these 7 parts. Get rid of that wingtip and build the winglets using the bar and clip hinges. They kind of predicted the 737 MAX, don't you think? Well, there's some giant winglets, but of course this plane's known for being a king of cargo with FedEx and UPS, so you can fill out those windows and give it a livery for a cool cargo plane that's also a bit unpredictable when landing. I've already made many 747 tutorials, but I've made so much better now. This is the 10 stud wide 747. Yes, it's not just a tutorial for a better nose, but a smooth custom back and the brilliantly angled wings. We're starting like we did with the MD-11, but using a single part for the base of the nose, as it needs to be very stable to support the upper deck. This front part is pretty simple, but it's very important you have these black parts. The colour doesn't matter, but their size will hold the sides of the slope exactly where it needs to be. The most noticeable difference with this design is the nose cone part. I first tried it out with JAL123 and kind of predicted how LEGO used it on the 747 shuttle carrier set. Unfortunately, the cone part they used doesn't come fully white, so mine is kind of flat at the end. Another improvement is that our windows now have 2 hinge joints to bend at instead of just one, so if you adjust them right, your wider nose will look very rounded and not so angular. These are the sides of the slope and they look pretty good with this design. Just follow it carefully and it ends up replicating the angle super nicely. It will be pretty tall, but that height looks ideal for a 10 stud wide build. As you can see, it attaches to these black snot bricks. Now we're going to build up near the cockpit area. This part is similar to the previous designs but just a bit bigger scale. The usual windscreen part sits on top of 2 of these semicircle plates. We're now building the part where the upper deck widens out to become 10 studs wide, which was difficult for me to work out how to do. But if you copy what I've done here, then it's a sturdy design that sits at an angle and won't move out of place. By the way, I made an annoying mistake here. There should be 1x4 plates under each of the square bricks just to raise it a bit higher. I fixed that problem later on. We'll now make a smooth round roof, which fits the builder nicely. And we have completed the XL 747 nose design. Kinda looks like a Dreamlifter again, but that'll be sorted out when our first class upper deck will start coming along. We've got to remove some parts to be able to extend this build, pull away the windows and replace this plate with this, and let's do that for both sides. Now it can just connect a lot more strongly. Let's build the fuselage. We're giving it a bit of a curve by making these bases go down a bit each time. Just remove these for now, as we'll put this space where the door would be and the hinges can go back on afterwards. The upper deck will now be fully connected by hinges as opposed to previous designs which just had a few hinges and gaps where there weren't any. Now we can reattach these parts we took off earlier and let's make progress on the upper deck. And this is the point where I realised that little mistake I made. We'll now be able to connect this part to the section with the windows. The slope will begin about midway through this part, so we will leave space for the roof to be able to slope downwards. At this point, the roof doesn't really connect directly to any bricks as it will join to a section later on, but for some extra strength you could easily connect it to the flight deck area using some bricks. Now we will begin the satisfying roof slope. This is my first design where the slope is made fully from individual curve and slope pieces rather than stepping the LEGO roof pieces up like this, because that was not really good looking. And for the front section, that's just about done, so let's do the central fuel tank, a whole 10 studs wide again. This will work for all variants of the Boeing 747. Also, I've chosen to make this plane fully white, which is why the central fuel tank is white, just like the one on the DC-10 was. But if you want to do a realistic 747 classic, then it's probably best making the lower areas out of light bluish grey bricks, like I've done in my recent bunch of recreation videos. And I guess the same goes for the DC-10. Flip it over and we're adding these parts stacked together which go here and place Technic pins over there. Now place a 2x2 brick on top of each Technic pin. It should look like this, and put this part with a plate on it. That'll help connect the nose of the 747 nicely. Strengthen the connection with the second 2x6 plate, which will allow us to begin the most unique feature of this specific 747 design. You can see we begin unusually by using ordinary rectangular plates for the front of the wing instead of the triangular wedges which we used for the DC-10 and every other plane. We'll still use wedges at the back of the wing as you can see, so we can get the ideal shape. This helps us to get cooler looking swept back wings, which the 4x6 wedge isn't steep enough to achieve. These dark grey plates just represent where you can use any kind of colour, as it is the middle layer of plates, so will get covered up by tiles. I originally didn't completely fill this layer for Pan Am 103 as I wanted the wings to be as light as possible, but if you put plates all throughout the middle layer, it makes the wing stronger. Strength is of course a big problem with these wings, as you will know if you've seen my latest behind the scenes video. This is the top layer where I've tried laying out the tiles in the best looking way. And we can also get smoother wings as we will use cheese slopes at the front to make it look like it could even generate some lift, which it definitely cannot. The end of this wing might seem quite chaotic, but make sure it's like this as we will need it built this way to be able to join onto the fuselage. And right here, don't forget the pleasant details of 2 transparent landing lights. Boom, the other wing is of course the same thing but mirrored. Now let me bring your attention to the wing tips, where we just need to fill a gap we weren't able to sort out earlier. Just put that small wedge in. Now we're going to make the antenna thing of the 747-100. It's that small antenna piece with a Technic pin that joins it to a longer bar piece. Also, if you want to try making the 747-8 wings, then the most I can say is good luck. I'd take inspiration from my 787 tutorial. Joining the wings is the most vital part. If you do it too weak, then your 747 won't stand a second on its own. Put some plates there and join the back of the wings from underneath. Now we're going to strengthen the connection. I wish I'd done it this way when I was at Lockerbie, as this is so much more stable. We're going to try joining the fuel tank a slightly different way. It's a bit more simple and doesn't involve Technic pins. Of course, that's not the only place it connects. Here we are just further building up this area. It will soon get covered by the fuselage. Now just move your wing over, as we need this big wedge placing right here. The wings are now joined in 2 places. We will be using these 45-degree angled pieces to connect the wings to the fuselage. They will be the only points of connection, but if you build around them correctly like this, then it should be stable. Here it will give us a lot more strength if we stack 2 of the A-shaped plates, but the one on top could block space for your cabin floor, so I'd just do it if you don't need an interior there. Here's more Technic pins. A bunch of them connect to this brick, which will keep the wing in place. And finally, some simpler building, just extend the cabin windows, leaving gaps for doors. We'll be able to finish off the slope from the upper deck down to the normal roof. Take note that the height difference between the two isn't actually that much, because the 747 fuselage at the wings is just so tall, so the slope should be pretty smooth, and definitely shouldn't be steep like how I previously messed it up. Well, take a pause on the roof now, as we need a lot more fuselage to be constructed. You will need a lot of the small fuselage base segments, as we are sloping our base upwards to where it will meet the tail. These tiles here are where the cabin windows will move inwards, because the 747 will get thinner as it reaches the tail. I ran out of those fuselage bases, so I'm using upside down roof parts instead. Join them together and put this plate with 2 Technic pins, as well as a load more over there, because this will allow us to attach it like a normal base, and also to attach another roof. You will need a regular base for the final one though, so thankfully I had one left. Before we try a custom back, we should extend the 10 stud wide cabin. Use hinges to make this part come inwards. Then we can work on finishing the roof area. We are making the custom back. This stack of bricks will help support the stabilizers, as the tail further up will just be made of wedges all attached to this area. Here is the end of the cabin. Now we can actually make the very back. You need this stable area above that will hold all stabilizers, and down here we will use hinges to do 3 sides. It's really not that difficult, and once we push them in to angle them right, it will look very good. Add some tiles, a curved slope piece for the very end, and some support bricks off the walls. The horizontal stabilizers are swept back at the same angle as the wings. I guess you could even use this big triangle wedge for the wings, which would be possible to give the same shape, but it would be more of a pain to cover in tiles. So these stabilizers are just 2 layers of plates, but they do go up a bit at the end. Flip them over and we build a small slice of the fuselage on here. They attach here so that there's 3 studs of that brick not covered, and it should all line up like this, so make sure it's attached well. Once we have stretched the roof out fully, let's finish all that detailing on top. Now it's time for the very end, the auxiliary power unit. It should fit around the curved slope below. Up here, we will create the studs to attach the vertical stabilizer. So a long bed of jumper plates we will put on this raised area. There should be 22 studs to put the tail on. These are the sides, which should slightly curve upwards for some reason. And the vertical stabilizer, the one on the 747, is pretty gigantic, which is why this is 18 whole bricks tall. All you really need to know is to use 6 of those slopes at the back, and as long as you have 17 of those little slopes plus the longer one at the bottom, you're just following this pattern of building upwards and filling in the space with white bricks. This one is at a different sort of incline to the DC-10 tail, as these slopes are not as steep. Well, this thing looks pretty done. Can you guess what we've still got to do? I need you to take out the cheese slopes in precisely these places on the wings, and we're putting the A-shaped piece, 4 of them, in light bluish grey. Because attaching engines to a plane where its wings are off-grid is pretty irritating, unless it's at a 45-degree angle like ours is. So we just have to fit it onto that angled part. It does make a kind of different looking engine pylon, but if there's one part above the wing and one below, the engine is super well clipped in place, and I'm certain that if you do it any other way, your engines might start dropping off and exploding. This is just the part that will attach under the wing, so with that completed, you put it exactly underneath the A plates that are already attached for a strong fit. Build another and build 2 more mirrored engines. I have to say, this is probably my favourite Lego plane I have designed so far. Liveries aside, I just can't get enough of this 747 from all angles. I know it's a complex build, but even if a small part of that tutorial helps you out, then I'm really impressed. Though this is not the end, because we can go bigger. The remastered A380 design from Dangerous Ways to Destroy a Lego Plane was actually my second ever 10-stud plane after the MD-12. This nose design mainly involves a load of slopes and hinge parts, which is why I think the nose needs its own tutorial. Here we're making the curved front of the nose, very different to that of the 747. We'll be using 6 of the 2x8 curved slopes. They go on the hinges like here, then we tower up further with the next 2. Now connect the one above. Put these smaller plates here with a 1x2 plate behind them to fill the gap. They're also held by those grey bricks. I probably should have put them on beforehand. Well, now we've built up to the height where the cockpit window is going to be, though this part here still needs to be done, as this is where it widens out from 8 studs wide to 10 studs wide. Just follow that placement of plates carefully. We will do a small slice of the cabin just so you can see how it continues, but the upper deck windows don't start until way further down the fuselage. Here's a small portion of the roof, which is the same height across the fuselage. We've got this built so far, and it's time to finish off with the flight deck area. We'll be building around the larger windshield piece to give the A380 its very tall curved roof, so that includes a lot of slope parts and putting a curved piece at an angle using a hinge. The A380 nose overall is kind of just a stretched A320 nose, and I hope I'm recreating that shape decently. Up here, we're going to flatten off the slopes by placing wedges and plates, so that there's a perfect space to fit this very final piece, the A380 roof part. It is complete. Sorry that I'm not making stop motions of the rest of the A380 like I said in the last tutorial video, but loads of you managed to perfectly build my planes without even needing tutorials, so it's very possible. I know it's hard to understand when you've not made videos like this yourself before, but trust me that making this took too much time, and starting started feeling like a chore, especially making the parts lists, which is not fun. But the next videos are projects I'm gonna enjoy the whole way through, like designing new planes. So I'll see you there, and thanks for checking this one out.